Stuart Mekovich had faced many challenges from a young age. Growing up as the youngest of 6 children in a poor family, nearly everything he owned was a hand-me-down. But there was a silver lining. On his birthday, Stuart was allowed to choose his own gift. On his 12th birthday, while wandering the streets, he stumbled upon a tiny, abandoned puppy. Instantly connected, he brought the puppy home. Despite initial resistance from his parents, persistent pleading allowed him to keep the puppy, naming him Snowy. This dog became his birthday gift and his companion for the next 12 years until Snowy passed away at the age of 12. Losing Snowy devastated Stuart, but the bond they shared deepened his love for dogs. Years passed, and life's hardships didn't wane for Stuart. After losing his job due to cutbacks and struggling to find work due to his age, he decided to return to his childhood village. There, he settled into a modest shack on the forest's edge, a humble, albeit warm and dry refuge. Not long after moving in, while exploring the forest, Stuart was drawn by a faint whimpering sound. He followed it to a small clearing and was met with a heart-wrenching sight. The body of an adult wolf caught in an old hunter's trap and a tiny cub nestled beside her. The scene painted a tragic picture. The cub, lost and clinging to its deceased mother, unsure of where to go next. The scene that unfolded before Stuart tugged deeply at his heartstrings. He had always revered wolves as majestic relatives of dogs and couldn't bear to leave the helpless cub alone. Approaching gently, the cub growled defensively at first, but Stuart's soothing words and patient demeanor soon calmed its fears. Gradually, the cub ventured closer, allowing Stuart to safely scoop it up and bring it home. Back at his shack, Stuart devoted himself to caring for the cub, whom he named Caleb. Understanding the dietary needs of a wolf, he fed Caleb fresh meat, either hunted himself or scraps from the local butcher, ensuring the young wolf received proper nutrition. Over the years, the bond between them grew, with Caleb adapting well to his new life alongside Stuart in the modest dwelling. 3 years had passed since Stuart moved into the shack, and the economic situation had only deteriorated, tightening its grip on Stuart's already meager resources. Food was scarce, and more days than not, Stuart felt the pangs of hunger. However, the cold nights were made bearable by Caleb, who would curl up beside him, sharing his warmth. Stuart often expressed gratitude towards Caleb, knowing that without the wolf's company, he would struggle to survive the harsh winters. Yet one evening brought an unsettling change. After letting Caleb out for his daily roam in the forest, a routine that allowed the wolf to connect with his natural environment, Stuart waited for his return. Every other night, Caleb would come back and settle in for the night beside him. But this night was different. As bedtime approached, there was no sign of Caleb, leaving Stuart anxious about the whereabouts of his wild yet faithful companion. Stuart's concern for Caleb deepened with each passing day as the wolf failed to return. After a week of anxious waiting, Stuart decided to search the forest himself. Despite scouring the woods where they often roamed together, there was no sign of Caleb. Undeterred, Stuart expanded his search to the outskirts of the village, eventually reaching an old church with a sprawling graveyard. As he approached, a large gray shape on one of the graves caught his eye. It was Caleb. Relieved yet puzzled, Stuart hurried over, but the wolf did not rise to greet him as usual. Instead, Caleb remained curled up on the grave. Concerned, Stuart moved closer and was stunned by what he found. Nestled against Caleb's warm fur was a tiny baby. It became clear why Caleb had not returned. He had been protecting this vulnerable infant. Worried about the baby's condition, Stuart gently lifted the child, who immediately began crying, a sign of hunger, but also of life. He quickly returned to the shack with Caleb and the baby, where he called the police to report his extraordinary find. They thanked him and promised to send someone to ensure the baby was taken to a safe place. As he waited with the child and Caleb, hours passed until a sudden urgent knocking on his door startled him. Cautiously opening it, Stuart was met by a well-dressed middle-aged man, his face etched with desperate hope. The stranger quickly explained that the police had informed him a baby was found, and he was desperately hoping it was his lost son. The intensity of the moment hung in the air as Stuart processed the potential reunion unfolding at his doorstep. Moved by the man's evident distress, Stuart invited him inside. Once they were settled, Stuart introduced him to the baby, and the man crumpled to his knees, overcome with tears of relief. It was indeed his son, the stranger explained, introducing himself as Charles Wagner. A multi-millionaire and heir to a major corporation, he shared a harrowing tale. His wife, Henrietta, had recently given birth to their son, Frederick, but had fallen seriously ill shortly afterward. During his grief, kidnappers seized the opportunity to abduct Frederick, hoping for a hefty ransom. They had hidden in the small church on the village's edge, where Caleb, drawn by Frederick's cries, had intervened and scared the kidnappers away. Caleb had then stayed by Frederick's side to protect him until Stuart's timely discovery. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Charles made an extraordinary offer to Stuart. He asked if Stuart would come to live with him and Frederick as a thank you for saving his son's life. Stuart was astounded. After years of struggle, he was being offered a real home. He accepted on one condition, that Caleb could come and go freely. Charles agreed without hesitation, acknowledging that the wolf had played a crucial role in his son's survival. Thus, Stuart's life was transformed. He moved into a new home where he could enjoy comfort and security, surrounded by as many dogs as he wished, though none could ever take the place of Caleb. For Stuart, it was the beginning of the happily ever after he had never dared to dream possible.